Welcome to Women Like Me, Stories in Business, the podcast that will captivate you with stories of success, resilience, and growth. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a curious mind, or simply seeking motivation and inspiration, you'll gain practical tips, innovative strategies, and actionable advice that you can apply to your own life and business endeavors. Now here's your host, business coach, and master persuader, Julie Fairhurst.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Women Like Me, Business and with Stories. And today, you guys got to hang in for this entire interview. I'm telling you, it is going to be so good. So my guest today is one of our authors. And the book is called Women Like Me, Whispers of Warriors. Women who refuse to stay broken. Now, when you hear Kay talk about her story, you are going to totally get why she is in this book. I tell you guys, it's like one of the most amazing stories I've ever actually heard. Okay, so before we get into Kay's story, Kay, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And Kay, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I am a Canadian, was born and raised in Canada, in Manitoba, actually. And the story that you're going to hear about brought me down to the United States. And so now I currently live and reside in the US. I have 4 wonderful children, 3 boys and 2 girls. And they're doing, I'm a truck driver. Long haul truck driver.
Wow.
And yeah.
Perfect. Now, you know what?
I lead a pretty simple life. Just do my thing.
Kay, I forgot to introduce your last name. So Kay Bohemier, right?
Right. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. Well, thank you, Kay, for introducing yourself to us. Okay. Let's just dive right in there. I don't know where to even begin, but I think probably the best place to begin is how this all started. And I know we'll just talk like a little snippet about it, but
okay.
You decided that you were going to do some pen paling with some folks in prison. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I think that I don't feel like I wasn't trying to be a pen pal to an inmate or a prisoner. It was more of what sparked my interest to write in the first place was watching a documentary on Netflix about segregation, which I knew nothing about, and how prisoners are treated. And it really bothered me. And they talked about how, their families disowned them. They've lost all contact with the outside world and, locked in, a cell for, many, sometimes all day long, 24 hours a day. Basically, they take away a mattress, it was just really sad to me. So when I heard that, they're still human beings, and my whole thing was you did the crime, you do the time. But I thought, you know what? Maybe I can make a difference and cheer them up at least, So I went online one day and I checked to see if you can actually do that. And wow, writeaprisoner.com came up. And so I read through hundreds, actually. I spent probably a week reading through inmate stories, why they're looking to, and I picked 3 that were, one was on death row, actually. And one other one was in Canada. And the one, which is what caused the whole story, was also down in the US. And to my surprise, he wrote back. I wasn't expecting to be a pen pal. I wasn't expecting to get a reply. I didn't write the letter to get a reply. It was more of, hopefully, you can change your way, believe, it's unfortunate that you're treated the way you have been, in segregation and that kind of thing, but keep your chin up and believe, just have faith and, don't let the crime define you. When you get out, do good.
Right.
You know, be better, forgive yourself.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what the letter was. And to my surprise, that inmate wrote me back, which I didn't expect.
Yeah. So then things start to progress a little bit. You got to the point where you,
Yeah, like he wrote back.
yeah,
Yeah, and you know, he seemed pretty intelligent. I mean, he was extremely intelligent, actually. I was quite surprised. He was very open about the crime that he committed. He was very open about how bad he had, how bad he felt. He talked about rehabilitation, I suppose. The word, maybe that's not the word he used, but changing his ways, his anger issue, and he talked about the courses he had been through, and that he felt he was changed. He went to prison when he was very young. He was 23, and he's still a child, basically.
mm-hmm.
So I believed him. I mean, I thought, well, he's got no reason to lie to me. There's my naiveness.
Yeah.
So that started the ball rolling.
Yes, yes. So, but there was a time that, I mean, it went on for a bit of a time, and then you ended up moving, or did you come and visit him first?
No, we wrote letters and spoke over the phone for close to a year, almost 2 years before I actually came to visit him.
Wow. That's a long
Yeah,
time.
so it was quite a long time. Yeah, I didn't just get up and like tear down to the US to go see this inmate. It wasn't like that. No.
No.
No, it just, the relationship progressed. Like I figured I was his friend, and I enjoyed his letters. He was funny and smart, intelligent. He talked about, there was not much to talk about, he's in prison, but he did talk about, I went to class today and this is what I learned, blah, blah, blah. So to me, it was, I was his friend, but then it did change into something more. My feelings did grow. Was fond of him.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's where my mistake came.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was too late. It's all said and done. And so, yeah, I guess we decided, okay, I'm going to be your girlfriend. And that's when I decided, I'm going to come down and, take the trip down and go see you in prison.
Yeah.
So that's when that happened. Yeah. So it was quite long into the relationship.
So once you came down to see him, how long was it before he actually got out?
We had almost 10, 11 months, just under a year.
Yeah.
It was just under a year, before he was released. So, I drove a long ways. I drove, from, at the time I was actually living in Edmonton. So from Edmonton to where I had to go, I think it was about 2,500 miles.
Wow.
I don't know what that is in kilometers, but it was a very long, it was a 3-day drive.
Wow.
And I got to see him for 1 hour, non-contact. So that means he's behind, glass but I was, committed to supporting him. So, and he asked, for me to come. And so I'm like, yeah, sure.
So can you tell us a little bit about the day that he got out? Because you talk about how you you met him in the parking lot.
Yes, I did. Yep. So got ready early that morning, got all fancied up and nervous. And it was just the excitement that I had it's undescribable. I was so excited for him, probably more for him than for me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
And, so I got to the parking lot and, I brought clothes to the prison guard. They gave him the clothes to come out of the prison with. And, I guess he had asked the prison guards if he can go out back and pick flowers. So he went out and made a big bouquet of flowers that he handpicked for me. So when he came out, he had all these flowers to give me. It was super sweet.
Oh,
it really was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so then you talk about in your story about I think he had to stay at his grandmother's home, and he was having a bit of difficulty getting a place to live because he was a convict.
Yeah, it's different than Canada. Down here, they do criminal background checks. So if you have a felony, there's felonies and misdemeanors. Felonies are more serious charges.
Yeah.
you can't get a rent. You won't be able to rent anywhere. So we ran into that issue. And so I decided to put the lease in my name.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how John was able to move out, because that was the agreement with his grandmother. He had to go within, I think it was 30 or 60 days he had to move. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So after he got out and you got the property in your name, did you go back to Edmonton or did you just stay?
No. Okay. So when I came down to pick him up, I asked at inspection, like the CBP officer, for the full 6 months to stay in the US, because Canadians are allowed for 6 months without a visa. So yeah, so they granted me the 6 months and I explained to them why. I told, the officer that I was picking him up from prison. It's the first time we're going to be together. So I wanted that time. Yeah. So I put the lease in my name.
Yeah. Yeah. And then moved in together.
Yeah. Well, he moved in. I stayed with him.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Because my plan was I was always coming back to Canada. I still had a job. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk in your story too about how everything was like fabulous, was really good, but then it slowly started to change. And you started to notice things, and he would say odd things. And
yeah, in the beginning, I mean, I could tell he was struggling right from the get-go. I mean, just using a cell phone, like he wasn't sure how to use, the iPhone, and he didn't know what online banking was. He didn't, so he was quite behind as things progress while you're in prison. You don't really, so he struggled. And I seen that, his patience was slowly diminishing to a point where, it became anger. And then that anger kind of took over, and it was just anger all the time. Mm-hmm. It was anger at everything. It didn't matter. Mm-hmm. And so, and then after the anger, then he would start hallucinating. He'd be watching TV, and he would say, he would panic. He would jump off the couch. He's like, "Oh my God, did you see that?" I go, "See what?" And I'm looking around like, what the hell is he talking about? Mm-hmm. He's like, "The Grim Reaper, he's standing in the hallway." Like, you just freak out. And I'm like, "John," and he'd start crying. Like, he literally could see. I was like, "There's nobody in the hallway," and we'd go to bed at night, and he would cower. He'd have the blankets covered over his head, cowering, crying that the demons are coming to get him. And I would, I'd stay up all night. And I was like, "Okay, this isn't normal. There's something going on. Like, does this guy have schizophrenia?" Like, I didn't know. Mm-hmm. Like, I really didn't understand it. Yeah. And so anyways, those things started surfacing, and it got to a point where, then I got beaten. Mm-hmm. Simple as that, and it was bad. And he beat me in my car, and he beat me unconscious in the car, and he dragged me out, put me in the passenger seat. When I actually came to, I found myself in the middle of nowhere, and he was driving, and there was just blood everywhere, and I was screaming like I thought I was dying. And he ran that car out of gas, and he got out to get gas, and I took a picture of myself to see like where am I bleeding. I didn't. Anyways, my eye looked like my eye was gone. My head, like, it was just horror. It was gruesome. And that's when for that second, I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna die." And he refused to take me to the hospital. He refused to let me leave the car. So that picture that I took, I sent it to a friend in Canada, and she phoned 911, and that's how I got saved. Wow. So, but that was, one of the worst experiences that I was so close to death. Like, he was charged with felonious restraint kidnapping and aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury. And I think they were going to try and charge him with attempted murder. The problem is that I don't know what he had in his hand when he hit me. Mm. And unfortunately, so that was the charge. And he was indicted by the grand jury. And so that happened. I mean, I've been strangled. He strangled me a couple of times. He busted my eardrum. I went through hell. Yeah. And people always ask, well, why did you stay? You should have just left. You should have just left, Kay. You know, and the victim shaming of, well, you deserved it. I mean, he was in prison, right? I mean, what did you expect, Kay? And I'm thinking, you know, I've always been brought up, don't judge others. And I do believe people can change. And if they had gotten the letters for the 2 years that I did and talked with him, I see no signs of any of those kinds of issues. So, you know, it's easy to sit back and point the finger, but unfortunately, it's not easy.
Yeah, it is very
You know,
easy to sit back and point a finger and judge.
yeah,
Yes,
it
absolutely.
is.
And yeah, which is not fair to you because unless someone's in your situation, they have no clue. And I know, and what I got from your story, because I know you were telling us a little bit and then you sort of jumped to basically like the worst of the worst. But
Sorry.
no,
Yeah,
that's
no.
okay. No, that's okay. That's okay. But what I want the people who are watching and listening to know is that it was gradual, and you did even take him to the hospital to try to get him some help. I mean, you had him committed at one point.
Yeah, I did. I went to a magistrate here and explained the situation, and I said I fear for my safety and I fear for his. He was becoming suicidal. You know, he said he was going to kill himself several times. And, you know, every time I said, you know, I'm going to have to call 911. Then it was, I'll beat you to goddamn hell if you call 911, and I will kill you and I'll kill myself and we'll both be on ABC News. And those are strong words coming from a man who has committed murder.
Right.
Because that's what he was in prison for. He committed murder. He was charged with manslaughter. And, you know, there's two sides to every story, or three actually, but, you know, the truth, and then there's the lie, and then there's his story. But, you know, his story says it was self-defense. According to what I've learned now, is it wasn't. You know, he was high and he was drunk, and he was walking down the gravel road early morning, the day of that murder. And his neighbor, I guess he sold marijuana, and John stopped at, you know, he was out on his porch, this old man, and he said, I want some marijuana. And the guy didn't like John, said, you know, you need to go, get going. Stay, you know, John says, you know, there was an altercation. Words were exchanged, and John said, I ain't going anywhere. You're going to give me some weed. And the guy said, get off my property. And I guess he pulled out a knife. And John said, yeah, you're going to pull out a knife. That's fine. And then John attacked him. And I guess it was a crowbar that killed him. And then John panicked, and he dragged the body in the house, and he set the trailer on fire. He went back and got all the bloody clothes off with bleach and whatever. He bleached out the washer and dryer by the time the police came. They, you know, and he was originally charged with capital murder, which is the death sentence. But they didn't have enough. They only had circumstantial evidence. Right. Because John had enough time to, I guess, you know, get rid of evidence. And so he took a plea of manslaughter, and he had an 11-year sentence, and he stayed in prison for 9 of those 11. Wow.
What was his background like?
It wasn't good. You know, his mother abandoned him. And she landed up passing away from drug overdose, I believe. He alleges his father was very abusive to him, would pistol whip him with a gun. And so John landed up staying with a friend from school. But then he went on and he started meeting gang members, and he became a gang member is what happened. He joined that family. And I knew nothing about gangs. I am pretty educated now when it comes to understanding why you even joined a gang, and I can see why he did. He had nobody and nothing. He was very messed up. And the gang that he was in, they were called the Assassinator. Like their set was to assassinate people. Is
Wow.
what I found out later. I didn't know that at the time, of course, but
No, no.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow. So
yeah.
I think one of the things that I read in your story that I thought was pretty scary, and I think it was getting towards sort of the end of, because you kept wanting to leave. Like you would think, okay, I got to get out of this, but then he would apologize, things would calm down.
Yeah, I think, in the chapter book, it was hard to write the feelings because I feel like deep down I was always going to leave after that beating. But I felt also that I could help him, which clearly I was misguided.
Right.
And, there's no help. I mean, there's nothing I could have done
No.
to change him in any way. I mean, he had some severe deep-rooted issues, and towards the end of it, I think he was planning on murdering me. I'm pretty sure of it, 100% in my soul. I know that. And it started. I had gone to bed one night and I got startled. I guess I woke up, I heard noise or something, and it was dark in the room. All lights were off. And I kind of sat up and I could see John standing at the foot of our bed. And he had a black balaclava. He was wearing all black. I couldn't see any skin, nothing except for his eyeballs. I could see his eyeballs. And he was holding that machete. And he was just standing there. And it took my mind a second to go, he's holding the machete. I think he's going to slice and dice you. He's going to kill you. Like, let's go, get up. Like, let's go. Like I was frozen in panic. I think like I just froze.
Wow.
And anyways, long story short, I jumped up on the bed. So now my feet are by my pillow. So I'm 5 times taller than him. And I'm also, 6 feet tall. So my head was damn near on the roof. And I leaped straight past him, literally like hurtled in the air, all the way across to the entrance past him, straight out that front door, half naked, ran as fast as I could all the way, and I hid behind the gas station at the end of our road. And I stayed there, and I honestly, I was so scared. I didn't know what the hell to do. I just honestly, the mind is a funny thing. Like I was paralyzed with fear.
Yeah.
And, hours went by. It was, I believe, I think the sun was almost coming up. And, I obviously couldn't stay there. And everything with cell phone, everything was back at the house. So I slowly made my way back. And John was out on the porch and he said, "I'm so sorry." He goes, "I was just playing around." And he seemed normal, right? He's like, so it's like, okay. And I didn't say no. And I knew my place now.
Yeah.
Don't argue with enough. Like just, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. How high do you want me to jump, sir? That was the moment I knew you need to get out because he is going to kill you. And so we never talked about it again after that. Everything seemed, okay. And it wasn't about, maybe a week later. It was about 1 a.m. I'm watching TV on the couch, and all of a sudden he said, "Let's go." I said, "Go where?" And he said, "We're going to go look for some flowers." And I said, "Flowers?" I said, "It's 1 a.m. It's dark out. What, can we not do this in the morning?" He didn't think that was funny. He said, "Get your ass up and let's go." Picked up that machete. And I should have said something in the chapter book, which I didn't, was he had purchased that machete probably, I would say 4 or 5 months into the relationship. And he would sit on that couch day after day after day after day, sharpening it in front of me.
Wow.
Yeah. And, my friend in Canada, even, we'd do video chat and she would look and she'd call me when I wasn't there. And she goes, "Kay, was that a machete he was sharpening?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh my," like she was panicking. She's like, "What?" She goes, "You're talking like la la la. And here's the man, sharpening that machete." And I said, like, it's amazing how you got to do what you got to do to be safe.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway, I'm sorry I got off track.
Oh, no,
But
that's
anyways,
okay.
he forced me out of the house with the machete, and we got down to the bottom. And about, I would say, a week before that, he had bought a wheelbarrow, which I questioned him. I said, we don't have money to buy a wheelbarrow. Why would you buy a wheelbarrow? We don't need one. And he told me to mind my own damn business. And that was the end of that conversation. So anyway, now he's got me pushing that wheelbarrow, and he's behind me with the machete, and he wasn't acting right, obviously. And, he's demanding, go straight to the woods. And I almost fainted, actually. I actually felt like I was going to faint, because I thought, holy shit, he's chopping me. I'm the flowers. He's going to kill me in the woods. And it was far enough back from the road, nobody could see us. It was like I said, 2 in the morning-ish. It was, early morning. And the neighbor, how we get into the woods, it was a vacant house. There was nobody living there. There was no way I could get help. I didn't have my phone. So, the whole time I'm walking towards the woods, I'm thinking, oh my God, like I got to figure out how to save my life here. And so I just, yes, sir, no, sir. If he talked to me from there to, go faster. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. We got to the edge of woods. He went in there like a bull, just slamming the tall grass and like little bushes with that machete, and just slamming that machete in there. And I'm standing there and I'm like, oh, and so I act like I'm not scared, because I feel like if he thinks that I'm scared, he's going to know that I know what he's planning on doing, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense.
So I pretend I'm not scared at all, and I'm 100% kind of on board with what's happening. So I just said to him, oh my God, I have to use the bathroom so bad. Please, can you just, please, John, please. And he walks straight up to me and he goes, oh, can I swear? He's like,
you can.
And he just screamed, fuck, go already, just pissed off. I turn around, I was gone. I didn't wait for him. Wheelbarrow stayed wherever I dropped it. I went in that bathroom, I locked the door, and literally like like the scaredness is now like, oh my God. And I stayed in that bathroom for a while, never talked about it. And that wheelbarrow never was there till I don't even know if it's still there. It could be, I don't know. And that's when, I think it was a day later. Yeah. I talked to his sister, and I told her what happened. And she said, my brother is going to kill you. No more time for plans. You got to go today.
So
and that's how it is.
So Kate, did you call the police during any of this?
The police came. Okay, so when he broke my eardrum and strangled me, I need to go into a hospital because I couldn't swallow. My eardrum was obviously busted.
Yeah.
The doctor could see the bruise marks on my neck, and he handed me domestic violence paperwork, although I told him that I was jumped at a bar. To protect John, because I thought, he'll get help. He said he keeps promising he's going to go,
Right.
And then when the police came, when he beat me badly unconscious, they knew I was lying because they got the text from my friend in Canada, right? I said, look what John did to me. But I wouldn't admit it to the police when they came. I mean, they took me, I had to go by ambulance. I was pretty messed up. And I just said, nope, he didn't do it. Nope, he didn't do it. Nope. And then, so I felt I had the bargaining chip at that point. And I said to John, I swear to God, if you don't go get help right tomorrow, I'm telling the cops what you did. That's basically where we were at then.
Yeah.
And he did go, but with, not without me going, and he just blew. That was just a waste of time. He never, it was just to appease me. So he didn't get arrested.
Yeah. So, and they gave him medication at that time that he wouldn't take, right? What did the doctor diagnose him with?
Well, they diagnosed him with bipolar 1 with hallucination episodes. So he did have a mental problem. Like there was something mentally wrong with him, and he was diagnosed with it. And so I think that's one of the reasons I stuck around, is because I felt, okay, people with mental disorder have a mental disorder. That's not something they can help.
Right.
So I always thought, well, maybe he's doing these things to me because it's his mental problem. Like, I don't know. I made so many excuses, but he refused to take the meds, and that was problematic because, it just got worse and worse and worse, to the point where I'm being forced out of my house with a machete, so it deteriorated very quickly.
Yes.
Very quickly.
Yes. And I thought it was interesting too, because you do talk a little bit about his sister in the story, and where a few times she said, you've got to get out of there. He is going to do something.
Yeah, she did. And I feel like she's a big part of why I'm alive. Because who else knows her brother better than her? Or than me, I meant, you know what I'm saying? Like she knew him, obviously their brother and sister, and she knew his capabilities and what he's capable of doing. And I was just too naive to believe the fact that, well, why would he kill me? All I've done is ever help him. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That's not what he's thinking, but he was. He was telling me right to my face, I'm going to kill you. And I was just like, whatever, not really taking it seriously, right? Because I didn't want to. Yeah. And it became, I was putting myself in that danger at that point because I just wouldn't accept that.
Well, we don't, sometimes, I can't even remember where I heard it once, but years ago I heard when someone tells you what they are or shows you who they are, we need to listen to that. Right.
Yes.
Believe it. But most of us don't. No, absolutely. We're like, oh, I can help or I can fix. Women, we just want to fix everything. We want to help and nurture, and we don't want to, especially people we love. We don't want anything bad happening to them. So, but to our detriment sometimes.
Well, I'm definitely thankful for, how close we became and how she supported me after.
Yes.
He did break his restraining order. He was arrested 4 more times. I was attacked after I left him. I mean, it's just, I mean, he wanted me dead.
So what ended up happening though is that he did go back to prison, but they didn't even charge. They didn't charge him with what he did to you.
No. He didn't go back to prison. No, he didn't. And, that's the issue where we're at, where I'm left going, change needs to be made, and I'm going to make my voice heard one way or another. He was on probation, which meant you break the law, any violent crimes, anything like that, we are going to send you back to prison. You're going to finish your murder sentence. So he had 2 more years left. He beat me to the point where I almost died, and they did not revoke his probation after it came out, because I did eventually go to police while he was still on probation, on that same probation. And they arrested him. They kept him for 48 hours. He made bond, and he was right back out looking for me. What they did do was they cut off his ankle monitor and they set him free, and they let him off probation.
Wow.
And that's just absolutely absurd, negligent. I think that it's disgusting that the people that were supposed to protect me, the same people that made him sign an agreement by the government saying, if you do these things, you are going back to prison. They ignored it all. And they said, yeah, go have fun. We're going to take you off probation. Go terrorize, the community we lived in. Go try and find that girl that you were trying to kill. Yeah, we don't care. We don't care. And that's what they did.
Yeah.
So
before that, or the day of the episode where he beat you so badly, and you took a picture and sent it to your friend, and she eventually was able to get help for you. So I can't remember. Can you refresh my memory and maybe tell our listeners what happened that day? Like the last day, like how you, because didn't you reach the neighbors?
How I left out. Yeah. So what happened? Well, see, I had already left. So what happened was the day. Okay. So the day that I talked to his sister was the day I'm like, I gotta go.
Right.
So, really no solid plan, but I was like, okay. So what happened is he stuck to me like glue all day. I had no chance to do anything until towards the evening when he said he was going to go have a shower. That was the first time I was alone without him. And so I was like, now's the time. I got up off the couch I just knew this is it. You got to go now. Now's the time. Like, go, 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 go. And got into the shower. I sold my car. So I didn't have wheels. So I had to take his car.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and for everybody listening, I'm from Canada. I'm not from the US. So I'm stranded now down in the US, right? If I don't take his car. So anyways, long story short, I sneak in there and I found the keys. I put them inside my bra. I opened his wallet. I took whatever money he had in there, put it inside my bra, and I took his cell phone because he was still he had an ankle monitor on. He wasn't allowed to leave the yard after 9 p.m. So I didn't want him to be able to call for someone else to find me.
Right.
I hollered at him and I said, I'm just going to go get some firewood because we were supposed to have a bonfire. He's like, okay, and whatever. And I was just like, it was that easy. I was like, is this for real? Like, I'm going to do it. It was hard to explain how I felt. And I got in the car. I turned on that car and I pedaled to the metal and I never, ever went back there. Like I was never with him again. It was the last time I seen him together.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very strange feeling, I'll tell you, because then everything else set in like, oh my God, what are you going to do? You have no money. You can't work in the US. Now you're driving this guy's car, the guy who wants to kill you. You have nowhere to go. You have where are you going to stay? Wow. It was hard. And so I phoned Linda. I said, I got out. She said, get out of the county you're in. Do not and hide that car. Go, go, go. So that's what I did. Mm-hmm. And I hid and I stayed hidden, until I got a phone call from his probation officer saying, he's been ordered to go back to his grandmother's. He's not allowed at where we were staying because the lease was in my name, right?
Right.
So they told him, get out. So I was led to believe he was gone. So that wasn't the case either. So, here. And then I did have one connection down here that did help me out. That person helped me hide the car. That person gave me their minivan to drive around in and said, go back, get your medication and some clothing. He's not there, but don't go in his car, take the minivan. So that's what happened. So I did. And that was the worst thing I ever did because John was hiding. He come out of nowhere and he started strangling me on the front lawn. I dropped my purse. I couldn't breathe. Both hands are on my neck. And I just took I had a bit of nails, nothing major, whatever, both hands and I put them on his face and I pushed and clawed as hard as I could. He let go and I ran, left my purse on the ground. I didn't even remember. It's just gone. And I busted into my neighbor's house. I busted in. And the lady, what's going on? I'm screaming, call the police, trying to kill me. And she's like fumbling. I think she dropped her pan because through that door is the kitchen. Anyway, so she phones 911. He disappeared. And I'm watching through the window. I couldn't see him. And I'm like, oh my God, he's trying to come in the other door. So I'm like, we shared driveways and the minivan was like literally hop, skip, and a jump from where I was standing inside of the neighbors. So I'm like, I could make it. And I had the key. So I did. I chanced it. I'm like, if he gets in here, I'm dead. So I bolted through the passenger door, got into the driver door, put it in reverse. Boom. He was right back. But I got in. I had it in reverse. He ran maybe 2-3 steps to catch the van, but he did. And he jumped onto the driver door, which I hadn't closed. And he's trying to swing his body inside and we had a really long driveway. So I put the gas pedal right to the floor. I don't even know how fast. I was going as fast as you can go in reverse.
Yeah.
Speeding down and the damn door hit a hydro pole, like an electricity pole,
Yeah.
peeled that door right off. All the fender of the whole
Oh,
minivan and John slammed onto the ground. I got it in reverse. So I got it back off the driveway. I slammed it in drive. No door. Shit's flying out the van. Gone. I was gone. And I got to the gas station, and I think there was several people called 911. And so an ambulance came. You know, they could clearly see that I was
yes.
strangled. But there was one officer that said, John says that you've been drinking, and, you know, you can be arrested for an impaired. I said, excuse me, for starters, I'm sober. I'm sober. I said, he tried jumping in, and I explained how I saved my life. And I said, so, you know, I'm thinking, give me the breathalyzer then, because if you want to believe him over me, that's insanity, which is what they did. They did not arrest him. The one time I did phone police, or police were called, and I'm ready to tell the truth about what just happened, they didn't help me. They didn't help me. Wow. So I had to go to the courthouse and get a magistrate to, and it's different than Canada. Down here, like, if the police don't see it or they don't believe you, you got to go down to the courthouse and get your own warrant.
Right. Wow.
So that's what I had to do. And I made an officer go with me, because clearly I couldn't lock the van door. And I'm like, oh, he'll be waiting for me when I get out of the courthouse. Right. Mm-hmm. So I had taken out a criminal summons. I explained everything that had happened. And, so nothing happened, you know, he wasn't taken to jail. He wasn't taken to jail, and he was more angry.
Wow. So,
you know,
so he is in jail now, though.
Well, he's in jail now.
Yes.
And that's only because he, at the end of the day, I think he was charged with 9 or 10 serious felony charges with, like, some of them were felony charges with me, and was indicted, waiting trial or whatever. Then he turned around and I think he committed more than 15 other crimes. 4 of them were armed robberies. And he was eventually arrested for those armed robberies. And then he went into FBI custody. I came out of hiding because now he's in custody. And he pled guilty. And so he got sentenced to another 10 years for the 3 armed robberies. And unfortunately for me, everything that I had been through and all the charges that, you know, I sat with detective after detective, you know, and everything got sorted out, and he was, you know, charged and indicted. Mm-hmm. They said, sorry, Kay, you know, we can't sit on these charges for 10 years. So I'll never get my day in court.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And that was some hard crow to swallow, because, you know, the whole reason I remained in the US and lived the way I had to was to ensure that I got convictions.
Yes.
You know, and I got zero help down here. And I'm telling you, I lived homeless in a bush. My bathroom was in the bush. To clean up was maybe a 7-Eleven. I lived hard
and you lived like that because you wanted justice.
That's correct. That's correct. And I begged the Canadian Embassy to help me. The Canadian Embassy told me no. They spoke with the district attorney down here and said, if we aid in helping you come back to Canada, then we're interfering with any convictions that they may be able to get. Because at one point, I'll be honest, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have died.
Yeah.
And so
wow.
Canadian Embassy denied my help. They wouldn't help me. The government down here said, sorry, you're not a resident. We can't help you. And unfortunately, domestic violence shelters here, you're only allowed here for 90 days. And you have to have a transitional plan. My transitional plan was back to Bush ABC down that road. Hopefully that pail's still there so I can use the bathroom.
Wow.
So, and no work permit. I couldn't work.
Wow.
So I couldn't, in order to survive, I used his car. That was also illegal. It had no insurance. The license plate had expired. I couldn't change that because it wasn't in my name.
No.
So I drove that illegal car. That was my getaway, my shelter, my everything. Like, I stayed in as much as I could, but I had to keep it hidden because we all knew he was looking for me. He showed up at that one connection with a gun looking for me and demanded to find out where I was. He got arrested and released for breaking his restraining order, and he was back out looking for me.
Wow.
This continued for, over a year.
Wow.
So
it
was hard.
Oh,
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine. The quote that you've got with your story is, I'm just going to read it to everybody. It says, if you are strong enough to stay, you're strong enough to leave.
Correct.
So, okay, what advice can you give? Like if somebody's watching or listening right now and they are in a not a very good situation, what advice, what type of advice could you give them from your situation and your knowledge and your...
I think that domestic violence situations, everyone is different. Every situation is different. Some want to leave, but they can't because they're scared. Some can't, don't want to leave because they're going to get killed. Like, there's all kinds of reasons why women are staying. Mm-hmm. Some are financial, so mm-hmm. when people say, oh, just leave, it's not that easy.
Right.
But I will say, there's resources out there to make a safety plan in secret so that you can get out, right? For the ones that are getting into a relationship and they see red flags, best believe them. Yeah. Because I'm going to tell you something, it'll never get better. It will 100% get worse. Wow. It will 100% get worse. And you as the the person on the receiving end of the abuse, it takes away your self-esteem, it takes away your confidence, and you slowly lose yourself to the point where it's hard to leave because you don't trust yourself anymore. You need this person because now it's very difficult. Mm-hmm. So my advice is, if you see the red flags, run. And the pit of your stomach, you'll always know. Believe in you and what you feel. Don't dismiss how you feel.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for that advice. Wow. It's a crazy story, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that.
I'm good. I'm healthy. I feel blessed. I've got my work permit. I'm doing well. Mm-hmm. And I'm taking what I've learned out of what happened, and I'm trying to help others. But I definitely want to be the voice of change. Things need to change.
Yes.
They need to have better resources. They need to have shelters for women like me from maybe a different country that can't transition out in 90 days because we can't work. So if we can't work, we can't support ourselves. Right. So where's the program for those people? There is none. Right. And that's not acceptable. I have stray dogs and cats that I've seen that probably have a better life getting picked up. And so did John. He's getting fed in prison. He's got a bed to lay on. I lived in a bush.
Yeah. Wow.
With no protection, nothing. Mm-hmm. No. I don't ever, even if I can help one person not have to go through that, that's a victory.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I think, I don't know, I know a bit about the US, but I don't know, I've never lived there like you have, but I would suspect from everything I've seen on the news and stuff, there are a lot of illegals that live down there, and they may be afraid to even reach out for help.
Probably, although, a shelter really doesn't get into the nitty gritty of, are you illegal or not illegal? Okay. They're more of, trying to help. And I think as in that, that small time frame window, this isn't a long-term solution for somebody like me, right? Where the district attorney has said to me clearly, if you go back to Canada, we cannot pursue these charges. So that's not good for me. So do I go back to Canada or do I stay down here? No, I need to stay. But that means I signed up to live in a bush. The
Well,
district attorney couldn't even help me.
but why, if they, like, I know you talk about that, well, we've talked about that before, and how he said, like, yeah, you need to stay here. Why would they not do something to put you up somewhere or to help you?
They gave me numbers, all the same numbers that I had already called. We'll try this shelter, try that shelter, try this, try that, whatever. And, it was the same thing. I mean, there was no long-term solution to my problem. Like there was, so it was just like, okay, well, I guess, I'm living in the bush.
Yeah.
And,
It was,
and
so I guess it was, I mean, I can certainly see where it's like, okay, I guess you go back to Canada and then nothing happens.
right.
He gets away with everything that he did to you.
Couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it, and I'm not looking for any sympathy. I made that choice to stay, and I definitely would do it again. And, but I'm very angry that I didn't get it after everything that they put me through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, well, sorry, Kay, well, his armed robberies were more important. So, sorry. Best of luck, though, Kay. Best of luck. No.
Yeah.
Someone can explain to me why the post-release parole board did not revoke his probation, which I'm still waiting to find out. As far as I'm concerned, I think they should be sued for negligence, because you know what? I got strangled after that. I was hurt. I lived like an animal in a bush because you guys didn't do your job.
Yeah.
No, that's not right.
Yeah. Wow.
That's not right.
Wow.
And,
Well,
yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I just really appreciate that you have that you're pissed off enough and you have the courage to, and the gumption to say, no, I'm staying here and you guys are going to answer for what you did.
And that's what I'm doing now. And that's exactly why I'm still here. And that's exactly what I'm planning on doing. And, I am working on my own book. It's going to be a bit of a journey to get that done, but I'm hoping that it turns into a investigative documentary. And, we can take the timeline of what happened to me and how things were handled. And I want some explanations, and I want to know why, laws need to be changed is what I'm trying to say, because especially down here, it's not right what happened. It's just not unacceptable, and nobody wants to take the blame. Nobody wants to be held accountable. And that's not right. That's not fair. No, and if it's happened to me, it's going to happen to some other survivor of domestic violence.
Yeah.
And that's not right. And it just angers me.
Yes.
It's not right. That's all I can say. And I posted some of the videos that I had hidden, some of the attacks that I endured with him. And I also want to tell anybody in that situation, you're going to come across a lot of people that are going to victim shame and say that, well, you deserved it. You said this, you provoked it. You did this, you did that. And you just got to remember that that's not untrue. Those kind of people don't know where to take the blame, and they don't want to accept the fact that this person could actually do that to another human being. So it's easier to blame, the victim, and I don't like using that word, but it's easier to blame them than it is the abuser. Yes. So, and I've got plenty of victim shaming on my YouTube channel, which I will be using in my book. I'm going to actually be using some of those quotes, like you provoked it. It's fake. It's, it's horrible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that's something else that I wanted them to know about.
Yeah. Well, Kay, I just want to really thank you. And I want you to know how much I appreciate you telling your story in the book. I know your story is going to help other women. I just know it. And, it will for sure. And being willing to do this video with me as well. And just getting the word out that there is help. It's difficult to reach out, but their life may depend on it. And
that's correct.
Yeah.
And it is out there. There is help out there.
Yes. Yes.
Don't feel alone. Don't feel alone.
Yes.
And I do have my email, so if anybody wants to chat, like if anyone needed, I'm more than willing. So.
Yeah. Well, when so in the details of this video as well as the podcast, I'll be putting a little bit of information about Kay, and I will be putting her contact information in there. So if anybody wants to reach out to her for any reason at all, or wants to have her speak to maybe some groups that need to hear from someone firsthand about what can happen when you ignore red flags, Kay would be your girl for sure. So Kay will be having a full book coming out. So I don't know when, but Kay, when it's ready, I hope that we can do another interview and I can help you promote that book as well, because it's people need this information. I really like what you said about, people feeling like victims, and then the shame and guilt and trauma. They're already dealing with enough, and then they get that from family members or the public, and then that just shuts them down completely as well. And so I think it's so encouraging to hear someone like yourself who went through a horrendous experience to be able to say, it's not your fault. And don't let people shame you. Don't feel guilty about it, because when you do, it makes your situation a lot worse.
That's correct. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Believe in your truth, and don't let other people to tell you what your truth is supposed to be, because that's what victim shaming is.
Yeah,
you weren't there,
Yeah. So. Wow. Okay, girl. Well, thank you so much, Kay. And again, as I said, everyone, you're welcome. And if anybody else wants to reach out to Kay, her information is going to be in the details. And we do have a book coming out, hopefully in about a week, and Kay's story will be in there, of course, with some information to reach out to her as well. So once again, Kay, thank you so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll talk soon. Take care.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Women Like Me, Stories and Business. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform and tell a friend. Don't miss this opportunity to transform your life and business. Let the journey begin.